goes into the preparation, leading up to the game, throughout the days before, during the day, and I think we have the best in the country to help us with that. With our training staff, Coach Mick, training staff, like nutrition and all them, and I know we'll be ready because of what they do, and then just continuing that throughout the game.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to our preview of the College Football National Championship game here on Herbert FM. This is Yuski and this is a really special Yuski and Herbie show. We appreciate you all joining us tonight. Let's give you the who's coming on the program here on the show. So thanks for making this part of your National Championship night here. So let's give you the who's coming on. You can always go to herbertfmsportsradio.webley.com if you want to tune in to watch us on YouTube as we speak. Kevin Moon will be joining us shortly around 6:15. He'll talk to the publisher of BuckeyeGroves.com. He's actually down in South Florida getting ready for tonight's national championship game. It's a very nice, it's 76 degrees and cloudy. And people on the ESPN have to put a camera on both Alabama and Ohio State's buses getting to the stadium. To me, that is like, why do we need that? So anyway, they are on their way to Hard Rock Stadium with a police escort. Now, if you're watching this on ESPN, it's pretty interesting. So it's going to be a very good, interesting game tonight down there in South Florida. Weather is going to be nice for the players. These two teams are not strangers to playing each other in these big games. They did play each other back in 2015 when Ohio State beat Alabama in the semifinal of the Sugar Bowl. So so these guys used to play each other a lot. You have to go back to back in 1995 when they played each other in the Citrus Bowl, and Alabama beat them by a score of 24-17. So it's interesting night tonight here on the program. Hopefully you guys join us for a very special hour. We'll get yourself ready for tonight's big game between Alabama and Ohio State. Ohio State beat Clemson to get here on New Year's Day night, beating them in the Sugar Bowl, and the Alabama Tide beat the Clemson Tide beat Notre Dame in the Rose Bowl that was played in Texas due to the series of situations of the COVID-19 out there in Los Angeles. Coming up at 6:30, Tyler Crowler, who is part of the host of the Kicking It with Crowler podcast, will join us at 6:30, and around 6:45, Phillip Jordan, who's the host of the PJ podcast and also talks SEC football, he will be joining us as well. So thanks for making this part of your Monday night here. It's a beautiful night here for football. We'll be back on Wednesday night, the 13th of January. We'll be back this week with our normal Wednesday night show. So it's 6:03. Let's give you some other notes and around here. Especially an interview I had with Patrick Surtain, who basically is going home because his father used to play for Miami for the Dolphins as a pro player, and Kansas City former Dolphin. So here's he talking about going back home to where his parents are.
Hey, Christopher.
Hey, Patrick. Thanks for taking my call. Talk about your father. Your father played in the NFL, with the Dolphins and the Chiefs. What did he teach you about football growing up? And also, was it like going back home to Miami, where he was literally there for a long time when you were growing up?
I can remember him playing since I was in my earliest youth days. But he's taught me a lot about football, even more about football. After life of football. He taught me a lot of things going into the game. And, I just carried and learned from him. And just going back home, he's going to be there I'm just looking forward to impress them. I know they're gonna be happy to see me. I'm gonna be happy to see them. So it's gonna be a great moment.
So
And
that's
Christopher?
Patrick going home to South Florida. So Ohio State and Alabama, these two schools, haven't played each other in a very long time. They have a quarterback in Ohio State, Justin Fields, who might be an NFL type quarterback. Um, Sometime down the road, he'll probably be there in the and playing for the Dolphins or somebody there years later. Um, Also, people don't realize Ryan Day, the head coach of the Ohio State Buckeyes, used to be the quarterback of New Hampshire. If you tuned in last week to Coach Sean McDonough, who we talked to, his former coach as a college quarterback. Coach Mack is very excited, very happy for his successful, knowing that he had a player that went on to become a true coach in this game. So anyway, folks, thanks for joining us tonight. With all the news and notes, players to watch this evening. We'll talk more about it. The key matchups for this evening is the Alabama interior defense, led by Christian Barmore. That's the guy Alabama has to protect. Mac Jones, who's the quarterback, got to protect them. Versus Ohio State's interior offensive line. So that's a interesting news and key matchup. And then the players to watch. We'll talk more about the players to watch here. Ohio State we already know about Justin Fields, but Alabama has the Heisman Trophy winner, Devontae Smith, who basically tore up the Irish 2 weeks ago. So it's a interesting matchup. And then we already talked about Ohio State. This is going to be if they win, it's going to be their seventh national championship in their school program during the poll era, and first since 2014 when they won at Oregon, at Jerry World, beating Oregon. So it's really. And then for Nick Saban, he can actually win his sixth national title and be bigger and better than Bear Bryant, who he's tied with for how many national championships in college football. So we're going to take a little break here. We'll go back to some great music here. We'll wait for if you have any questions. If you have any questions, you can always see us at the bottom line there. You can always email us at HerbFM, at gmail.com if you have any questions or concerns. Lee Corso is having fun at his pool. He's been there all year long, folks. It's pretty interesting. So pretty neat that he's there. So anyway, so we're going to take a break here. And when we come back, we'll hope for Kevin Moon to join us from Miami. So we'll be right back.
Sup?
Hey, Kevin. How you
Hey, how's it
doing?
going? Doing well.
Thanks so much for doing this tonight. I know you're. Tell me all about getting into the stadium. How
Yeah,
tough was
they
that?
they didn't have bag tags at the right gate, so then they sent us to another gate, and we had to walk around the ESPN complex. And then we got in, and I asked 3 different people how to get to the press box, and nobody
Wow.
knew. They just kept pushing, sending us to other people, and then we had to go up all the ramps. So it was a minor fiasco.
Yeah, well, that's what national championship games are. You know, it's not easy to get you in. They want to make sure
No,
everybody's tough to get in. You know.
exactly.
Well, let's talk about this game tonight. Big game. These two schools haven't played each other since 2014. So it's been, or in a national championship type setting. Yeah, that was the semifinal game. What does Ohio State have to do to knock off Alabama? Because it seems like Alabama could play with anybody, even an NFL squad.
Right. I mean, Ohio State's just going to have to score and score and score some more. I mean, Ohio State's going to have to win a high-scoring game. You know, we sit there and we look at the Ole Miss game early in the season for Alabama. We look at the Florida game for Alabama. You know, I think it's just a case of you have to keep on scoring. The thing that Ohio State has, that certainly Florida didn't, maybe Ole Miss to a lesser extent, is it has a balanced offense where it's, it's rushing and passing for like 272.6 and 272.3. So, with that being said, I think as long as Ohio State's able to stay there and go slug for slug and not have to get away from the run game, this is certainly going to be a fourth quarter game, and then it's just going to kind of be a matter of who makes their own breaks.
Yeah, I feel like with the Alabama, they have such a great wide receiver in Smith, who won the Heisman Trophy, and they have a good quarterback. They basically have everybody. They're good all over the place. It's like they don't have a weakness. I guess their only weakness is maybe their punter.
Well, I mean, I don't think that this is an Alabama defense of other years. I think that their defense certainly has shown some vulnerabilities. I mean, but the thing to remember is you can't look at what happened week 2 for them and say that that's what's happening here in week whatever the hell this is at this point. I mean, you get better as the season goes along. You do deal with injuries along the way. So I mean, it's a ebb and flow. But I think that there certainly is the potential for this Ohio State offense to be able to put up some points. But when you look at the Alabama offense, they certainly don't show a lot of vulnerabilities whatsoever. You lose the Remington Award winner center, and just plug another guy in and just go on your merry way. I mean, they win the Joe Moore Award for the best offensive line unit in the nation, and it is going to be a formidable task. And we've seen the line move from 7 to 9, and I think there certainly seem to be a lot of bettors out there that seem to think that Alabama, is in a class of its own.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about Ohio State. They only played 5 games, and everybody started belly aching about or 6 games. With the one calls it the national, the Big Ten championship, and if they win this game tonight, they'll be the first team to win with an 8-0 record, and you have to go way back in like the old days of football.
Right, but you just have to kind of roll with the punches and what the schedule is. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that we were sitting there looking at the Big Ten, looking at a spring season to play the winner of the Pac-12 in the Rose Bowl in a meaningless exhibition. And now, here we are at this point, and Ohio State's one of the last 2 teams standing for the national championship. Everybody, for the most part, was able to get their junk together and get out there and have a season. And yeah, Ohio State had 3 games canceled along the way, and it's unfortunate, and there certainly was plenty of politicking that Ohio State probably didn't deserve to be in there. And Ohio State said, look, we've faced all the challenges that we've had thrown at us. And, it's been a minute since Ohio State's played a game even at 85% roster capacity. I mean, there certainly have been dealing with this, that, and the other in terms of multiple COVID outbreaks. I mean, none of them have been so significant that it's, taken half the team off the table or anything, but we're going into a game tonight where they're going to certainly have some guys who aren't going to be able to play, and we'll have that list out around 7:00 Eastern. And there certainly are some expectations that some starters will not be available.
Right. Yeah. How difficult is it with the COVID-19? Because I know everybody went through it this year. I know we covered the ACC a lot. And I know Florida State and Miami got nailed with it. Florida State didn't even play a game at the end of the year. They only played 1 game. That was Duke. And they have a winning streak now of 1. And Miami had to play a mismatched schedule. Like they had to throw people in and throw this guy in and that's guy in. And plus, every other school had to do the same thing as well. So you guys, were supposed to play Maryland here in Maryland, and that Maryland got nailed with COVID-19. So this year's one of those years of like, if you played, you're very lucky you played, on a night like tonight.
Right, and it's so difficult because these guys, I mean, and I'm not just saying at Ohio State, I'm saying everywhere, you get into routines, you get into habits, you become a creature of habit, and you know that, okay, Tuesday is going to be potentially your most difficult practice, and you're going to do this and you're going to do that. And, lo and behold, games get canceled on you or whatever. And certainly we're not talking a situation like the FSU Clemson game that got canceled the morning of, but the Ohio State game at Illinois, I was already in Illinois set to cover the game the night before, and as we were pulling up to our hotel, we learned that Ryan Day had tested positive, and by the time we got back for dinner, we'd learned that the game had been called off. And it's 5.5 hour drive. I was like, well, the hell with this, we're going to stay in Champaign for the night. Not that there's a lot to do in Champaign, Illinois, but we wrote it out. But that's just kind of been the year that it is, and if Ohio State is able to get past Alabama in this game and is your national champion at 8-0, I'm sure there are going to be plenty of people who are going to have an asterisk on it or whatever. But I think any champion at this point, even if everybody plays the same thing, I'm a Dodger fan originally from Los Angeles. I know there are going to be a lot of people who are going to bag on the Dodgers, but I think some of the challenges that the Dodgers had to go through made their championship a little bit more difficult than a routine year. And I think that Ohio State, certainly shouldn't be penalized if it's able to get past Alabama and run the gauntlet of Clemson and Alabama in this 14 playoff. I don't think that I can guarantee you there's not going to be any Ohio State fan that's going to sit there and say, well, I'm not going to buy a shirt or a hat. This is kind of a half championship. That's not going to happen. I promise you.
Yeah, and I totally understand. I think it's a national. You're a champion, no matter how many games you play. If it's one game or 10 games, I feel like if you won the thing that says national championship, you won it. So what? If you're 8-0 or 9-0 or 10-1 or whatever, who cares? Like to me, like with Davis Sweeney complaining about you guys only played 6 games. Who cares? It's just the way it is. That's just the way. This year was one of those years like. I remember in March when this whole thing started, and I'm thinking to myself, am I covering any football this year? And I'm praying every day. I didn't go anywhere this year. I stayed to do Zoom calls like you guys do all the time. I stayed home here in Maryland, and I didn't go anywhere because I have a girlfriend who has a bad immune system. And if I went there to any game, I had to come home and do all the protocols and all that stuff we set up here. And I'm thinking to myself, and I'm seeing you guys going out to these games, and you probably felt, were you at any point scared about where you went to different games and you're like, oh, they just had an outbreak last week. Should I stay home?
I think I should probably say yes, but if we're being truthful, no. I mean, maybe I'm just a big dumb oaf who doesn't think about that kind of stuff. It just never really got into my thinking. I mean, honestly, I've been doing this for a long time, and I never thought about not going to cover a game or anything like that. I mean, I guess there would be a certain tipping point if you got into a bad enough situation, but I never really felt that I was putting myself into harm's way or anything to where I ever really had a serious conversation with myself saying, I could probably do this from my couch.
Yeah, that's why I decided to do it this year. I'm like, well, maybe next fall I'll go out to a game or so and see how everything when we get the vaccine or whatever is out there. That's what I look at. But right now I'm going to stay right here and have my own food and save some cash. That's
exactly. Yeah.
Let's talk about Justin Fields. I know he came from Georgia. You guys loved having him there. And does he have one more year eligibility, or is he off to the NFL if he decides to go?
Well, he has a year of eligibility, but I wouldn't expect him to use it. I mean, he's this. Before the Clemson game, there were a lot of people that were trying to move him down the draft board a little bit, saying that he wasn't the number 2 quarterback behind Trevor Lawrence. I think going out and throwing for 6 touchdowns and playing, more than a half of football with, some chopped liver, ribs at the point from the shot he took from James Skalski, proved a lot. But we'll see them. We love transitioning from the end of the college football season into draft preps and whether or not we have an NFL scouting combine and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I don't see any scenario to where Justin Fields says, "Hey, let's get the band back together for one more run." I mean, if he's going to go number 2 in the draft, I mean, what's he trying to do at that point? Is he that dead set about wanting to go number 1? He certainly had an injury scare in this last game, so you understand how fleeting this all can be.
Yeah, and if you're in the second pick in the NFL draft, you go to the New York Jets.
Well, with a contract worth millions of dollars. So yeah. I was going to say they're trade-offs.
Exactly. So real quick before I let you go, I know you want to. I know you have stuff you got to get ready for the game. I know it's an hour and a half before kickoff. But what is your keys of the game for Ohio State to win this game, come home with a title, and be national champs?
Well, I think Ohio State needs to make Alabama work for everything that it gets. Alabama's going to score points, plain and simple. Any Ohio State fan that's expecting a shutout or something like that really needs to get off the hard stuff, because that's just not going to be the case. But you need to make Alabama work for things. You can't let them have 2-3 play drives. You need to make them, the more plays in the possessions, the more chances you have for takeaways and things along those lines. It certainly wouldn't hurt Ohio State either to take the ball away a couple of times. Ohio State's on the right side of the turnover margin. I think on the other side of the ball, Ohio State just needs to be able to get out there and run the ball. And I think you're going to see some questions there in terms of the health of Justin Fields and whether or not the Buckeyes are going to be able to do the zone read the way that they normally do. Trey Sermon has been playing out of his mind, but a lot of that too has been predicated on the dangerous nature of Justin Fields. If they're able to do enough with Justin Fields to make them respect the zone read, I think that that's going to be good. And I think one other key is going to be Ohio State remembering that it has tight ends. Ohio State went 3 games prior to the Clemson game without targeting a tight end. They had 3 touchdowns and 5 receptions against the Tigers. I think you need to do that as well. I was reading on the internet somewhere that I think Pro Football Focus said that no team had given up more yardage to tight ends than Alabama, but I will also say Alabama went against an otherworldly type of tight end in Kyle Pitts. So, let's keep that all in perspective. But I think Ohio State has some NFL caliber tight ends, and it needs to use them.
Yeah. Well, so what's your final score for tonight's game? What's the final score?
I always feel better about my picks days before the game, and then I get to game day, and I have all these reasons why I want to back off of it. But I think it's going to be, as I said, an Ole Miss type of shootout, a Florida type of shootout. I love the over. I don't know if I'm in love with my pick, but I have Ohio State winning it by a late field goal, 52-49.
Okay. I'll put you down on the program at the end. We'll see how we do. So, all right, buddy. Thank you so much for taking some time. Enjoy the weather, and hope the food's good there, and good luck with the game.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. See ya. That's Kevin Moon, who writes for the, he has his publication, I forgot, BuckeyeGrove.com. So, so he's picking Ohio State winning by a field goal. So that's an interesting pick there. So, folks, thanks for joining us. So this is a special edition of the Yuski and Herbie Show, previewing. I'm Chris Heidel. That's Herbie. Yuski is on an assignment this week, so he'll be back next week for the Wednesday show. My good friend George Becerra from Shakedown Thunder will be joining us on Wednesday night, and we have a great program lined up for you on Wednesday night. So I hope you folks will make a part of your Wednesday. We'll be covering some hockey. Some NHL. The Capitals are going to get ready to get going. They're going to be playing the Sabres in Buffalo. And speaking of Buffalo, the Ravens will be there on Saturday night on NBC when they take on the Buffalo Bills. So it's going to be a interesting evening. So please join us at 8 o'clock right here on StreamYard.com. We'll have Dave Lamont will join us from ESPN, our good friend down in Miami. We'll recap probably the national championship game, and we'll recap it as well. And then we'll talk to Lauren Roach, who writes for the Maryland Terrapins for the women's basketball. We'll talk women's basketball for Maryland around here. And then we'll talk to Kyle Baker, who covers the Ravens for Baltimore Beatdown. We'll join him and talk Ravens football. Big win for the Ravens yesterday over the Titans of Tennessee. So let's bring in our good friend, who's on the program here, Tyler Crawler, who a good friend of ours who comes on once in a while. Hi, Tyler. How's everything going?
I can't really hear you.
Can you hear me now?
I mean, I can hear it. It's like it's almost like it's like a mumble, like a.
All right, let me log back off and log back in.
Really good. Let me see.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you a little bit better, but it's still kind of like a muffled a little bit almost.
All right, maybe crank up the volume. I don't know. Let me figure it. Let me remove myself. Buddy, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can't really I can't understand. Yeah, there you go.
Let's try that again. All right, is that better?
I mean, damn it, I can't really hear you.
Yeah, let me try to figure this out. Hold on a second.
I don't know if it's my phone or your. I don't know what it is.
I don't know, but I can hear you.
Like
perfectly.
can you hear me pretty good?
Yeah, I can hear you perfectly. Yeah.
Yeah. See, when you're talking, I can hear you a little bit, but it's really muffled, like sound like a robot almost.
Well, let me go use my cell phone. Hold on 1 second. Okay, hold on.
Yeah. See, I can't even make out what you're saying. What's up, guys?
Right. Hold on. There you go. All right. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you a little bit. I don't know if that's good enough to do an interview, though. Do you want me to call? You want me to call you?
No, I can hear you. I don't know what's going on here. I got Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's my phone. I don't know why it's happening. Let me see. Oh, can you say something again?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes. Now I can.
All right, let's just do it on the phone. It's all right. So
I don't know what was going on.
Well, we just do this every day. I do this all the time. Yeah. I do this every time. I just go on my cell phone once in a while. So
yeah, I can hear you.
Anyway,
I can hear you good now.
Cool. Well, thanks for coming on tonight. Let's talk about this game tonight, Ohio State and Alabama. What do you think they got to do? What does Alabama got to do to but knock off Ohio State and put that whole thing to rest that, a team that played 7 games or 8 games won't win a national title?
Yeah, I mean, I really think it starts with Alabama's defense. Alabama's offense, they're going to put up numbers. I don't think they haven't been held under 31 all year. I don't expect that to happen tonight. So it's really all about the Alabama defense. And where it starts up front for me is their defensive line. Their defensive line is not as good as they've had in years past. Of course, they've had numerous first-round picks on that defensive line: Quinnen Williams, Jonathan Allen. They don't have that type of player yet on their defensive line, so they're really going to have to get after Justin Fields, and Patrick Surtain's going to do a nice job on his side of the field. Also, their freshman corners on the other side is going to have to step up a lot. So Trey Sermon is the real big key factor for me. Trey Sermon has run for almost 600 yards. He's almost ran for 600 yards in the last 2 games. So I think if Alabama can keep Trey Sermon under control, I think Alabama will control this ball game, because if Ohio State's able to run the football and then and then they're really able to set up the play action, and that's when Justin Fields becomes very dangerous to me. So Nick Saban, as long as he can keep Ohio State under, I'm gonna say 17 points in the first half, Nick Saban's gonna make adjustments. I think he's the best halftime adjustment. I mean, he's maybe one of the greatest coaches of all time. His halftime adjustments, what he does is amazing. So I'm really excited to see what he can do in the first. Really excited to see what he can do in the first half, stopping Trey Sermon and Justin Fields' offense. But man, watching the second half for them to really lock Ohio State down, and I think it's going to be a close game. But I'm going to roll with Alabama on this game.
Yeah. Well, I feel like Alabama is an NFL squad, so I think they could they could take over Jacksonville or the Jets and play against somebody in the NFL, because this is how Nick Saban basically gets these players ready for the NFL. You had what's his name? The Heisman Trophy winner.
Yeah,
he sat on the bench. Yeah, he sat on the bench for what? How many years?
Yeah.
and they won the Heisman. That's pretty interesting. That you can sit behind so many great wide receivers there at Alabama, and you teach them how to play wide receiver, and then it's your turn to shine, and you tear it up.
Yeah, and talk about Alabama offensively. I mean, this is a juggernaut. Mac Jones completing 77% of his passes. I mean, that's unheard of in college. I mean, not only high. I mean, that's unheard of at any level. 77% percent completion percentage. He has a 95 QBR this season, which is the highest all time. I mean, he is just able to. He really trusts his receivers. You can tell when he throws the ball, he thinks his guys are going to come up with it. Najee Harris, of course, is the best back in the country. I mean, this offensive line is very good. I mean, this Alabama offense is scary. So when it comes down to me, Alabama versus the Ohio State defense, I think it's going to come up to Ohio State's defensive line. They've played really well this year. Their linebacking core is good. Where they struggle a little bit is in the secondary. So that's something to watch. Sean Wade, didn't have his best game versus Clemson last week. He's going to have a tough matchup this week with Devontae Smith. And then, of course, Jalen Waddle's coming back. They have two really good tight ends. I mean, this Alabama team, they're loaded. So if Ohio State does upset Alabama, I mean, it'll be one of the biggest upsets that I can remember in the national championship game. But, I just think that Nick Saban-led team, offensively, defensively, they're just too sound. Also, they actually have a kicker this year. Alabama normally doesn't have a very good kicker. Their kicker's made every 73 extra points and 12 field goals. He hasn't missed a kick all season. So that's something to watch out for as well.
Yeah. And I feel like with Ohio State, people don't realize we had Ryan Day was a quarterback at University of New Hampshire. Yeah. And we had Coach Mack, his coach, on last week, who's a good friend of ours of the program. And he said it was he had a story one time that Ryan comes in with cracked ribs or whatever and throws his pass and is completely bad. And Coach Mack was like, comes up to you and goes, "You're kidding me, right? Okay, you're highly recruited out there in New Hampshire. You're like the best player in New Hampshire. You're on our squad." And then he turns around and looks at Coach Mack and goes, "All right, you want me to?" So he fires one right to the guy perfectly. He turns around and goes, "Is that enough for you?"
Yeah, right.
And Coach Mack was like, "All right, dude." I was like, but that's pretty interesting that he had that determination, even playing quarterback. Yeah. Up in the Columbia Athletic Conference with a coach that he's been there for so many years, who's basically loved by his players.
Yeah, and Ryan Day, I mean, he's only lost one game. That was last year to Clemson. I mean, he's done a heck of a job. Not really having a huge drop off from Urban Meyer to Ryan Day, which I think a lot of people thought that Ryan Day. I don't think many people thought he could be what Urban Meyer was to Ohio State, but I mean he's leading them. I think he's like 22-1, 23-1. He's a Chip Kelly disciple, so I know he played for Chip Kelly. I know he played for Chip Kelly at New Hampshire, I think, and then coached with him at Oregon. So I mean he's doing a nice job. I think NFL teams are starting to maybe take him for notice too. So he can do a lot for his legacy, a lot for his future with tonight's ball game, but. Like I say, I think it's going to be a competitive game. I really do. I think it's going to be back and forth. Like I said, if Nick Saban can keep Ohio State under 17 points in the first half, I really like Alabama. If it's, Ohio State's able to get 24, 28 on the board in the first half, that's something to watch out for. But I just think that with Nick Saban, like I said, what he's able to do on his halftime adjustments, and Steve Sarkisian calling his last game for the Alabama Crimson Tide before he goes to Texas. So this is a big game for him as well.
Exactly. So what's your final score for the game?
Yeah, so my final score for the game is 35-31 Alabama. I really feel that Alabama kind of controls the first half. Ohio State, like I said, I think they score 14-17 in the first half. They get going in the second half a little bit in the third quarter, but then the fourth quarter, this Alabama team tightens up, and that's what I'm going. I'm going 35-31 Alabama. Ohio State will cover the 8.5, 9 points, depending on where you're getting them at. But I'm going to roll with Alabama on this one. I'm down here in Columbus, Georgia, so right here near Tuscaloosa. A lot of Alabama fans. I have never rooted for Alabama in a national championship game. So tonight will be my first, first real shot at rooting for Alabama in the national championship game. Like you said, they've only won 7 games. Ohio State. Tough for me to root for a team like that when Alabama went 11 games in the SEC, destroyed Notre Dame. So I'm just gonna go with Alabama on this one. I just think they're too powerful offensively. I think defensively they will bend but not break, and they'll come up with a key stop late in the game.
And then you're rooting for Alabama. Are you going to go to church tomorrow and get yourself decleaned? And
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. I mean, but I just can't watch a game almost without rooting for one of the teams.
Yeah.
I just gotta root for Alabama on this one. Ohio State, if they would have played 12 games or so, I'd probably be rooting for Ohio State. But like you said, they didn't play. They only played 7 games, missed some games due to COVID, and it'd just be odd to have an 8-0 team as a national champion for me.
Yeah. Well, so before I let you go, how's your podcast going? Explain to folks what you've been doing lately.
Yeah, man, it's been going good. It's been a tough. I always pick games. I put 6 to 8 picks out every week, and I started out hot. Last 2 out of 3 weeks, it was hard, man. I had the NFL games this weekend were tough. I picked 4 out of 2 correctly, but didn't do so well. Didn't do so hot against the spread. I'm right around 500 picking games against the spread. That's really one of my big keys to the show. But I just enjoy talking football. I enjoy having the conversation. Everyone's got a football team in college, it feels like. So just being able to bring people together and talk some crap and just being able to at the end of the day hey, we don't always have to agree, but we can agree to disagree. And I just enjoy the show, guys. Kicking It with Crowder podcast. You can find me on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. Anywhere you get your content at, Apple, Spotify, I'm on all those. So I'm about 75 episodes in. I've done about 75 shows, so trying to get to 100 and kind of see where it goes from there. But yeah, I really appreciate the shout out there, and I think this is my 3rd or 4th time coming on Herb. So I appreciate you guys having me on, and we'll have to get you guys on mine one day, okay?
Yeah, let's let me know when you want me to come on, and say hello to your friend Rob Sanders out there, our good friend who told me, hey, I know this guy who's really good. I'm like, okay, I'm like, I'll bring him on. Yeah, so and I know he's probably watching.
I'll be on Rob's show tonight after the first quarter, so I'll be doing a little breakdown on the first quarter. Also, I'll do a halftime special. A little preview of the second half and what's been going on in the first half too. So
yeah, I've been staying up after the game and try to do the post game interviews. So that's gonna be fun.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Yeah. All right, bud. Have a great time. Enjoy the game, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yes, sir. Hey, go Noles! I see the Florida State jersey. Big Florida
I had
State
to
myself. So not a lot to talk about lately, but I think we're going to be improved next year. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I had to wear it because we won 2 national titles, so it's a national championship game tonight. So we got to think about them.
Yes, sir.
All right, buddy. Have fun. Talk to you soon.
All right, thank you, brother. You have a good one.
All right, see ya. All right, let me try to get back onto the program here. So let's 1 second. Let me go to StreamYard. Wipe out that. For the program here. Hey, George. Hey, Phillip.
Hey, man. How's it going?
Doing good. Thanks for coming on real quick here for tonight for our special national championship game. I had Tyler on, and it was a good conversation with Tyler and all that stuff. And I had the guy Kevin, who is down there in Miami right now, and he was telling me for the Buckeyes, he was telling me how security was so tight getting in there. Yeah. Yeah, it's like, wow, dude. It's like, we need security that tight there. So anyway, you're a big SEC guy. I know Alabama basically is a NFL type format. They could play in the NFL anytime they want, pretty much. They got players that could be in the NFL next year. What do they got to do this year? What do they got to do tonight to just literally tell Ohio State, thanks for playing. You played 8 games, but now go home.
Just do what you've been doing all year. I mean, just, offensively, I mean, I've said it on my show, Talking SEC, plenty of times. I think Alabama's the most stoppable offense I've ever seen in college football since I've been watching. And I'm going to say this, and might shock some folks. I think they are a better total offense than last year's LSU team because of what they can do with the run game. Because, hey, look, Ohio State, try to come take away the passing game. Drop 7 in coverage, okay? Mac's just going to turn around and hand it to Najee Harris. And even if you try to play coverage, you're not stopping Devontae Smith. Jalen Waddle, there's talk that he could play tonight. I just read on AO.com before I jumped on with you that that's going to be a pregame decision, how he looks in warm-up. So it's up in the air where Jalen Waddle's going to play. And John Minchie. I mean, all the guys Alabama has. I mean, just do what you've been doing all year offensively. You should be fine in this game, and defensively, just create some turnovers. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing for Alabama because honestly, I think this will be a high-scoring game, and if Alabama creates some turnovers, I think pretty much you can lock them in for the win if the offense is doing like it's been doing all year.
Yeah. Let's just talk about Nick Saban. I could do a good impression of Nick Saban. I was doing it around my neck of the woods the other day. I was doing it like, hey, how you doing? I'm Nick Saban. What's up? Yeah, I'm going to go to McDonald's and get myself a hamburger. No, I don't feel like doing it this evening. That's what he sounds like. He sounds like one of those car salesmen that can come up to you and go, would you like to buy a car? No, I don't want to buy a car. Yeah, it's great that he, his voice, like, I know he's a Bill Belichick disciple, but it's like, we need people like that in the game.
Yeah, I mean, he's focused in on winning. I mean, this is big tonight. Get another championship, and he'll have more than to bear. So it's a big big night for him. Of course, he had that opportunity 2 years ago against Clemson, and of course, remember how that happened. Trevor Lawrence had the big game against them there. They blew out. I mean, we all thought that offense was. Here I am talking about Alabama being the unstoppable offense. That offense was looked at the exact same way, and then we saw what Ohio State did. I mean, we saw what Clemson did in that game. Ohio State maybe trying to replicate that. So, but yeah, Nick Saban. I mean, he's done so much, and honestly, you see how much he makes. He's probably getting underpaid at Alabama. Just the money that rolls in for the university because what the Alabama football program does, what he continuously does. I mean, I honestly don't think we're ever going to see a run like this. What we're seeing from Alabama, continuously year in and year out, doing what they're doing. It's just incredible what he's done there.
And it's fascinating with all his disciples, like Jimbo Fisher always tries to beat him, but Jimbo is 0 for whatever. Yeah, he got, and I don't know what Jimbo needs to do. Maybe hijack the guy before the game or something like that, or put him in a dumpster somewhere. I know he knows where he is, or give him COVID-19 again, or something. Because I don't want to say that to do to Nick Saban, but it just seems like his Achilles heel is it's like he wants to go to the SEC, and he goes, "Yeah, I'm going to do well at Texas A&M, but I got Nick Saban right here."
Yeah, but none of the assistants have done well against them. I mean, they're 0 for 21, 0 for 22, something like that. I mean, I think Kirby's been the closest one to maybe knocking them off. Nick Saban, I mean, Lane Kiffin gave Nick Saban a run for his money earlier in the year. But yeah, I mean, they just, it's like one thing. And we see it, you talk about Bill Belichick, just like the NFL. How many times have we seen a Bill Belichick assistant get hired and he not do well, especially against Belichick? I mean, it's like you're trying to get the success of the guy, but you're not getting the guy. You're getting guys that learn from the guy. But you think they're giving all their trade secrets to these guys? No, they're not. There's just something different about these guys. I mean, you just can't just say, okay, he worked for him, he should be good. It doesn't always work. And look, Kirby Smart, I think, is the best of the assistants so far. And Jimbo Fisher's done really well, too. He's won a national championship at Florida State, and I think A&M's going in the right direction. But, it's just one of them deals. And Lane Kiffin, too. I'm a big fan of Lane Kiffin, what he's doing at Ole Miss. But it is kind of funny, every time we see these assistants. Sarkisian, he's going on to Texas now. We'll see if he matches up with Saban down the road. But it is one of the things. They just cannot beat them because they are not Nick Saban. They learn from Nick Saban. They are not Nick Saban.
Yeah, and I feel like if Jimbo wins a game against Nick Saban, then he'll feel like he got over that hurdle, and then he goes, all right, now I can get in the college football playoff and maybe win something for Texas A&M. But until then, there's no way. The only way you can beat Alabama is if Nick Saban retires, and they go with Don Shula's son for a couple years.
Be careful with that. That brings up a lot of bad feelings in Alabama. They've not had too much success with the Mikes. Mike Shula, and then you had Mike DeBose, Mike Price for just a spring. So the Mikes did not work out for Alabama. But, you talk about beating Nick Saban. That's the key for anybody in the Southeastern Conference. Beating that monster. I mean, that's what you've got to get through. I mean, Auburn's done it a couple of times. I mean, you've had Ole Miss under Hugh Freeze a few times, but there's not many teams have done it. There's only one coach in the conference that has a win against them. That's Ed Orgeron from last year since Gus Malzahn got let go at Auburn. So it's that is the mountain you have to climb in the conference if you are going to get to the point where they are now, and that's the college football playoff and the national championship.
Yeah. Well, you're an Auburn guy. What do you think of the guy coming from Boise State? I think Boise is a little bit, Boise is like, if you win, you're okay. You keep your job. But when you come down to somewhere in the SEC, like Alabama or Auburn or whatever, if you don't make it to a bowl game, bye-bye.
Look, the Gus Malzahn thing, which there's a lot of other stuff went into that. I don't know how your audience followed the craziness that was the Auburn coaching search. Auburn's a different place. I'm not going to get in the whole spiel because we would be here for another 2 hours and we would miss the game. But the board of trustees and the athletic director, there's some issues between how that works. But Brian Harsin, I'm a big fan so far. What he's said. I mean, look, you can say a lot of things, but you got to put it on paper. You got to put it on the field. Come this fall. I like some of the hires. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm a big fan of the Mike Bobo hire. I remember he was at Georgia. Georgia fans were always complaining about him. He didn't do great at South Carolina this year either. Bobo's not a horrible offensive coordinator, but it's not a splash offensive coordinator either. But Harsin's an offensive guy, so he'll probably have a lot to say what's going on there anyways. I like the Derek Mason hire, defensive coordinator, former Vanderbilt head coach, but he was a really good DC when he was at Stanford. And that's kind of what I've tried to focus on with him in that hiring. And those are guys, but the important part with those, I will say this, they're SEC guys. And Brian Harsin, he's a Boise guy, born in Boise, played for Boise. Assistant coach at Boise. He had 3 years away, 2 Texas offensive coordinator, and then he was the head coach at Arkansas State. He went back to Boise. So he's not familiar with this area. How could he be? But we're bringing in these guys. He's brought in some of his Boise assistants, which I figured was going to happen, but he's keeping Cadillac Williams on the staff, where that was big. I think the biggest part about that is keeping Tank Bigsby. Maybe a lot of people in your audience is not familiar with him. A lot of SEC people are. Tank Bigsby is a star. I've said he's the best Auburn running back I've seen since Cadillac Williams about 15 years ago, and that's who's being coached by. That's who recruit. I think that there's a really important part about that relationship. So Harsin's doing, I think, good things. It's a completely different tone than Gus Malzahn. You can tell that Harsin is a no-nonsense guy. Look, and Malzahn did some good things at Auburn. I'm not going to say he was a horrible coach. He wasn't. He had a winning record every year. But I do think it was time for a change, a philosophy change. So, long story short, I'm pretty high on what I've seen so far, Brian Harsin.
Yeah, it's like here in Baltimore, we have John Harbaugh. He's been there so long. It's like the message gets really sour after every year just by the same guy. You need some freshness. Like in Philadelphia today, they got rid of Doug Pearson. That's going to be a fresh new look next year in Philadelphia. It's great that you want to have tenure, but you got to have better messages instead of the same thing every year.
Yeah, I mean, not everybody can be Nick Saban or
Right.
Bill Belichick, as you kind of mentioned earlier. I mean, those guys are the exception, not the rule. And sometimes it just happens within 7-8 years. Maybe it does get stale, and and a lot of times I think it's good for both parties, not just the team, the program, or the organization. If you're talking about the NFL, but the coach too. Maybe he needs to go somewhere different. Kind of take a step back and kind of learn some new things. Take a year off and then go somewhere else, and you can be successful. That's happened plenty of times. So I think it's good on both sides when you kind of can do something new.
Exactly, I agree. So let's talk about predictions real quick here. What is your prediction, your final score tonight for the game?
I think Alabama wins this game 45-38. I do think it's a high-scoring game. My biggest reason for picking Alabama, one, I'm impressed with them. Until someone can knock them off, I'm not going to believe it. Just the way this offense, and defensively, they're not horrible. I do believe this will be a lot like the Ole Miss game they had or the Florida game. So, high scoring, and Alabama's just going to have to just keep putting the pressure on with their offense. I guess for me, for Ohio State, the thing that worries me, we all heard, the trash talk with Clemson and Ohio State, all the things Dabo Swinney said. What happened last year? So when I watched the semifinal game between Ohio State and Clemson, felt like Ohio State put a lot of energy and emotion into that game to get past that team. My question for Ohio State tonight is, can they get to that level again? It's hard for college football teams to get to that level 2 times in a row. And I'm going to be honest, I'm not 1% sure Justin Fields is healthy. I mean, I know that they're saying he is. That shot he took, and you could tell how he was reacting. And there's some rib damage there. I mean, they're not, but there's some rib damage there. And I don't think he's mobile tonight. He is going to be a pocket passer if that is the case. If he's running, then hey, Phillip was wrong. He's healthy. But if he is staying in the pocket, don't expect him to run. He's not a big runner, but he has some elusiveness. I think it's a big part of the game. But that's kind of my big reasons why I think Alabama's going to take it. And I guess I'll say this: I think Devontae Smith wins the MVP.
Yeah. So your score again? I just want to put it down so I could put some predictions in online. What's the score again you picked?
Alabama wins 45-38.
45-38. Okay. All right. Well, buddy, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Enjoy the game. I know after the game I'll be busy trying to talk to people on the phone, so that'll be fun. So yeah. Hopefully I don't get yelled at like Brian Kelly yelled at me 2 weeks ago. That was fun. But what can you do? It's one of those things. So
absolutely.
Yeah. Enjoy the game and thanks for coming on.
Oh yeah, man, anytime. Always happy to talk football.
All right, buddy. Talk to you soon.
All right, thank you.
That's it. That's our good friend Phillip Jordan, who covers the SEC a lot. So we're gonna say goodnight, folks. Good night, folks. Yes, please join us on Wednesday night at 8 o'clock for the Yusuke and Herbie Show. With our good friend George Bashir will be joining us. Shakedown Thunder will recap the national championship game, and then we'll go to we have Dave Vermont on from ESPN, John Regan who covers the Caps, and then we got women's basketball coverage with Greg Murray at 9 o'clock from Indiana, the broadcaster for Indiana women's basketball. And then we'll wrap it up. So please join us at 8 o'clock, right there at the bottom of the screen there, 8 o'clock on Wednesday night. Well, it's going to be a great evening, and thanks for joining us, and we'll talk to you all on Wednesday night at 8 o'clock. Have a great night, folks. Thanks for joining us. Enjoy the game, and we had a great time tonight. So we will play this song and have a great night, everybody.